Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Tiny Blue Games. My name, of course, is Sisa or Chris, and today we're talking about Wildstar. Now, we are finally at the very last stage of our leveling guide, the 40 to 50 section. And for those of you who have been following along while you're leveling, congratulations, because you're almost done your leveling journey in Wildstar. Um, Today I'm on my Dominion character, just sort of representing the Dominion a bit because I feel like they've been a little bit, underloved in this series so far, and I just want to show you that I do have level 50 on the Dominion side, and I do play them from time to time. I enjoy the PvP as well as PvE from time to time as well. Um, what we're going to be talking about today is the level 40 to 50 section, which in a lot of games would be the hardest section of the leveling because it's at the very end. I mean, if you're thinking about WoW or something like that, the last few levels of leveling are generally hell. This is not the case in this game. I would argue that the 40 to 50 stretch is a lot shorter than maybe the 20 to 30 stretch, and that's just because of the zones you're going to be in. Now, three of the zones, well, I'll start off. There's four different zones that you're going to be able to acquire these levels in, which is already a pretty nice thing. So you get to switch up and have some variety throughout the stretch. Three of the zones have very good story-driven quests, which makes it nice because they're engaging. You're always wondering what happens next, and it's hard to get confused and lost, which some maps tend to do. The final map is a dailies map, and you can do that from 49 to 50. And the best part about that is you could do the quests, log off for the day, and do them tomorrow. So it makes it very simple and very nice and quick to get those levels if you want to do it that way. You don't have to do it that way. That's another beautiful part about this stretch is there's a bit of option because there's some overlapping level areas, which you'll see in a moment here when I talk about it. So we're going to structure this video very much like how we structured the last video. I'm going to split it into three sections. The PvE section, which will be just leveling areas. The PvE instanced, which will be dungeons, ship hands, adventures, yada yada yada. And then a very brief discussion on PvP throughout this bracket. I will have the annotations at the top if you want to click them and just skip to any of the parts right away. But without any further ado, we're going to start with PvE and start talking about our very first map, which is Malgrave. So Malgrave, and I'll show you how to get there, is kind of a deserty map. The way you can get there is you can take the ship from your main city, which in the Dominion, because I showed you the Exile main city in the last video, is the Spaceport Alpha. You'll see all the ships lined up here and lined up over here. The ship to Malgrave is right there. So you can walk right over to the ship and just teleport right there. If you are the appropriate level, you might get some sort of quest or phone call thing when you come to the main city or just wherever you are saying that they need help in Malgrave, and I would just go whenever you get that. So you go talk to the Malgrave ship and it brings you right here to the desert. So the desert is a wonderful place. You'll find some lop, which is always fun, some protostars, associates, and a lot of deserty creatures like these burrowers and stuff like that. I'm going to bring up a sort of a little a picture of the map with some leveling ranges and arrows on it to talk about again in these videos. It just makes it easier for me to show where you should be going and the sort of path you should be taking. So I'll talk about that right now. All right, so here's the Malgrave map. You can see here that it's a pretty large map, but it's pretty easy to follow the quest chain. Both factions will start kind of in the same area in that 40 to 41 area, and then the Exiles quest path will sort of lead them up the left side of the map, whereas the Dominions quest path leads them more up the right side of the map, and then they kind of reunite again at the top. It's pretty easy to follow the quests. I wouldn't say you'd have much trouble with it, and honestly, I spend as little time as I can in this map and sort of move to Grimvault as soon as I can because I just love the Grimvault story. But there are a few things you should know about this map, and that's the red starred area and the little green starred area. So we'll talk about the red star area first. So this is where the Hellrose Bowl happens. And what this is, it's a protostar kind of event chain that can be started by anyone. You have to collect a bunch of things, but what it is mostly is it's a 3 world boss event. So you get 3 world bosses killed just by doing the event, and it's like a 20-minute event, so it's super quick to get those 3 world bosses. And it's the same 3 world bosses every time. So once you've done it, there's no real reason to do it again. But it's kind of a rare event, so whenever you see it happening, I would highly recommend doing it. And I've said it in other videos that when you kill world bosses, it counts for your attunement at any point. So I would highly recommend doing it because you're going to get experience the level and get the world bosses done at the same time. And this leads us into our next sort of item, which is the green stars. And this is where the R12 event happens. Now, the R12 event happens every 4 hours, and it's kind of a chain of events once again. But what it is at the end of it is you get to fight one world boss out of a pool of 5 possible world bosses. So there is the possibility that you can get 8 total world bosses done in this map, which is a huge amount of world bosses, especially if you're doing them while you're leveling. The R12, though, it's a random one each time, so you could get the same one over and over again. That's why I recommend doing it whenever you see it up, for a chance to get one of the other ones, and to kind of just keep track of which ones you've already gotten, so you know how many you've had. So if you've already done all 5 of them, there's maybe not as much of a reason to do it. That being said, you still get experience or reputation rather for Malgrave Trail, as well as experience when you're doing it. So that's pretty much all you need to know about this map. So once you're done with Malgrave, or you've taken as much Malgrave as you can take, you can head off to Grimvault. And this is where things really get interesting, because there's going to be a huge amount of story in this area, and it's going to feel very endgame zone-ish, if you know what I mean. The actual transport to Grimvault is right beside the Malgrave one, which is super convenient, so I don't have to really explain much about that. So you just hit the Grimvault one, and it's going to take you to a different place depending on what faction you are in, and I'll work that into the sort of discussion when we look at the places here, but I'll just zoom out to show you where we are here. We started on the right side of the map here, and if you're on the exile side, you're going to start on the left side, and then you're just kind of going to work up your side of the map to the end, depending on what side you're on. It'll be better with the arrows and such, because it'll make more sense. All right, so here we have the Southern Grimvault map. It is fairly similar in layout to the Malgrave map, as on the left side with the green arrows, we have the exile sort of path through it, and then on the the right side with the red arrows, we have the Dominion path through it. Things to note is that, you don't start in the same location. The exile is going to start in their own way, and the Dominion start in their own way. And this is because this map's a lot more story driven than the other maps. It has a lot more of a unique story to it that's focused on end game sort of topics like Strain and Darussa and all that. And it's very interesting to quest in. Very, very enjoyable too. So I would recommend, there's 2 ways to get there really. I guess the Malgrave map is right below it, so you can actually just walk up past it into Grimvault. And you'll actually see the Malgrave Trail entrance when you're walking near there. The other way to do it, obviously, is taking the port in like I just showed you on the ship, or the phone call sort of thing that directs you to how to get there. But that's the map. It's very basic. You just sort of stay to your side, and honestly, the story is going to lead you through it very, very well. But what else I'm going to say is that once you're done with the Grimvault area, and you'll just follow the story the whole way through, you're going to leave through the very top of the map, and you're going to end up going right into, and you'll see here, to the Western Grimvault area. It's right connected to the top left of it, so you can just walk through, or if you somehow have taxis, you just continue up. And that's the beauty of it, because you see the connection here. You see it goes Malgrave, right connected to Grimvault, right connected to Western Grimvault. I guess Southern Grimvault and Western Grimvault. So that's what I was saying when it's all really connected. You don't have to kind of go all over the place. It's right next to each other. And in the Western Grimvault, you just come out in the bottom and go up to the top. So I'll talk about sort of the directions the quests go a bit more in the info graphs. All right, so now we're moving on to the Western Grimvault map. And what you have here is a very more linear sort of path where there's less of a exile side, Dominion side. Things of note, though, are there's the Widowmaker, I think the ship's called, and it's in that 48 to 50 zone where the 2 arrows lead to. There's a whole questing zone inside the ship, and it's a really, really cool story. I highly recommend you do it. And you can kind of miss it if you're just sort of not thinking about going in the ship, but it's a huge area. As well as the Phage Lab is a huge area, which is that 48 to 50 area. So it looks kind of like a smaller map, but because of how many like little instanced areas and stuff there is, it's actually quite a huge map, and there isn't any reason you can't get to level 50 just from being in this map. So take your time and really explore. Other things that I have noted on this sort of diagram here, there's a green star, and that is the entrance to Genetic Archives, which is the very first raid you'll do. The Datascape raid entrance is actually along here as well in a different part of it. It's very interesting to note that, because like a lot of people don't really know where the first raid is when they start raiding, and they're like asking everyone, how do you get there, how do you get there, and then they don't want to ask because it kind of seems like a newbie question. So I just decided to put it on the map so that people know. All right, so the final place we're going to talk about when we talk about leveling between 40 and 50 is the Crimson Badlands. Now this is a daily zone for level 50 people, but you can actually go there and quest at level 49. The quests give very good experience. You won't be able to get the full level. You'll probably be able to get about 70% from what I've experienced in the past. Maybe if you had every booster on and like killed a few people, you might be able to get a full level. But I wouldn't go there until you were 49 and a half or 49 and 30%, maybe something like that. You could also go there if you wanted to just do a run through them one day and then go back after it resets and do the quests all over again, and that way you could get to very quick bursts of XP that way, if you were going to log off or something. So anyways, the way you get there is you just go and use a little ship thing again. It's kind of in the same sort of area as the Grimvault and Malgrave one, which were right there. We skip past Defile, Blighthaven, and then Crimson Badlands is right here. You're going to take the ship over to Crimson Badlands, and as you'll see, it's kind of a deserty area as well. There's a lot more desertiness in the later part of this this game. Now, I'll show you on the little graph I've created here that there is kind of more of a Dominion and an Exile side. It'll make sense in this second, but I'll just show where you start. The Dominion start right here, and you'll get quests to sort of go more down to the southern area of the map, and then the Exiles start more on the northern side and do quests over there. And I have nice little circles to show you where to go. So the very final map I wanted to talk about here is the Crimson Badlands map. And what we have, it's a 49 to 50 map, and I told you I'd put down sort of areas that signify Dominion and Exile areas. So you can guess that the red is the Dominion area and the blue is the Exile area. Not to say that there is no crossover. In fact, that's kind of how this map was designed, especially with the PvP servers, is that there was supposed to be a lot of battling over different mobs and a lot of PvP that happens. Sadly, that's not really ever been the case because the PvP servers are pretty dead, but it is a fun map and a very interesting concept. So pretty much you'll be able to, like, the quests are super self-explanatory. It's like, go kill 5 of these monsters or something like that. They're very quick, lots of experience gained from them. And it's obvious where you need to go. So I haven't even put arrows here. It's just those general areas. And I think that should be enough to get you through it. All right, so now that we've spent a while talking about the ways you can level from 40 to 50, and leveling through questing is what I would recommend for these levels. It's just so quick when you're questing. The story is quite interesting, and everything about it is nice about questing. Not to say you can't do PvE instance leveling, it's just harder to find groups. It might get a lot easier when it goes free to play. We're all crossing our fingers that that is the case. So we're going to just do a brief discussion about some of the things that are new for this bracket of leveling. So for ship hands, you only really have one new ship hand, and that is the Gauntlet. It's actually one of my favorite ship hands, and it's got a cool little mechanic to get gold where you have to collect all 10 hidden skulls. I think they're golden skulls, and they're hidden within the ship hand in kind of interesting little areas. It's challenging enough that you don't run into them like, oh, there's one right in the middle of the hallway, but it's not hard to get all 10 of them. So I really do enjoy that. The entrance to it is in Malgrave if you want to go in that way and get the quest. If not, I would just queue in for it. The adventures you'll get are Crime Lords of Whitevale at level 40. This one's pretty fun. It's, if you ever wanted to be a part of a gang, this is the easiest way to enjoy that. It was such a cool concept. I feel like it might have fallen a bit short, as it The idea behind it was that it wouldn't be very repetitive because you could like choose all these different gangs to be a part of and stuff. But the issue with it is people are just going to find the one that's the quickest to win, and they're going to want to do that each and every time. However, if you haven't done it, you will have to do it eventually, and it's a fun one to try. And then there's Malgrave Trail. Oh, Malgrave Trail. I would never recommend anyone to do this if you're leveling. It's just not going to be enough reward. It's such a long, god long. It's so long. Did I say it was long? No, it's pretty tedious. It's fun. It'll be fun if you've never done it before because it is interesting. It's cool. It's a really cool idea. I wish it was a bit shorter. You escort a trail of people throughout the Malgrave Desert. It's kind of got a survival feel to it. It's a very interesting, different adventure. They just need to shorten it and give better rewards. That's what has to happen. So those are the two adventures you can queue for. And then finally, the dungeon that you can actually go in. It's a level 50 dungeon, so you can't queue in with the dungeon finder, but you can walk in at level 47. And that's Sanctuary of the Swordbane, which did get buffed recently, so the rewards are quite great for doing it. In fact, you'll get some pretty good gear as well as XP from doing it, if you're brave enough to enter, that is. It's a really fun dungeon. Once again, on the longer side of things, I think it would have made a perfect like intro raid, maybe like a 10-man raid. I think that would have been a perfect scene for it. But it's a really fun dungeon. The bosses are done really well. It's challenging, and it's a great way to get you in shape for endgame. Endgame dungeons and stuff. Like if you do it on normal mode, it really gets you prepared for that, to learn your role and stuff. So those are the instances you can do from the 40 to 50 bracket. I would recommend queuing in with your supportive role, either tank or healer, and DPS selected, and make sure you check out the chat to see if anyone's interested in doing any of these with you. So with that, we're going to move to the final part of this guide, and it's really going to be super quick because there's nothing new, and that's PvP. Hopefully, I've said it every single time I've made one of these videos that there is PvP to level when free-to-play goes out, because that was such a fun way to level when the game was new. It's really a shame it's not a thing. But you've got your 3 PvP maps. None of them, there's no new ones at this level bracket, so you just get to enjoy all 3 of them again. So I'd queue in for random if I was ever trying to get a queue while leveling. If queues popped regularly, it would be a great way to level. It really would. There'd be no problem doing it. It's all about the queues. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it covered everything you wanted to for this bracket. If you do have any questions, because there's so much information, I'm sure I've missed something, be sure to leave a comment about it, and I will get back to you. I've been hopefully super good at getting back to comments. I like to think that I get back to everyone's comments as quickly as I can. So do leave them. If you like the video, do like it. You know, I got an end card for this, so let's just skip to it. Thanks for watching. If you really enjoyed the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're new to Wildstar, or have an existing account with no game time left, please try the 10-day free trial either at the Wildstar homepage or by checking out the link I've left in the description below. And finally, if you want to see more videos like this, please subscribe.